I called my teacher by her schoolyard nickname, in front of the class, by usergun_show. I'll try to keep it short. My name has a silent letter in it and I had this teacher that relentlessly not only kept pronouncing it, but over-enunciating it no matter how many times I corrected her. She just kept doing it. One day I just finally snapped. Her name is really weird, I won't say it here but those who know. She called roll and said the mispronunciation of my name. I answered, yes, Mrs. Icky Booger. Her jaw dropped and you could hear a pin drop. She said, that is not my name. She'd obviously heard this name around or had her own JR high flashback. I clearly stated, and that's not my name. She pronounced it correctly from there on out. Want me to entertain your kid after I said no? Got it, by user witty_comfortable404. I told my friend about this and she said to post it here. It was definitely petty, definitely fun. Would definitely recommend to others dealing with annoying entitled parents. Background, I'm a mom, I have a 7-year-old boy and I just went back to school last month. Right now I need to study a lot and I deal with a lot of guilt about not having as much time with my son. So, to kill two birds with one stone, I took my son to Science World this past weekend and brought my books to study while my son was exploring independently. After we spent 2 hours on exhibits together, my son was settled in on a sensory activity where he ended up playing for about an hour. This was exactly what I was hoping for, so I took a seat within eyeshot and pulled out my laptop and textbook, and I started cramming. I was doing well and getting through content when this strange little spawn started scaling my leg and decided my laptop was perfect to play with. Big hell no from me. One brand new laptop that cost half my monthly rent. 2 strange germ factory on my lap during the tail end of a pandemic. 3 not my kid, not my damn job. Unfortunately, his mom was the kind that has no clue about social expectations and acted like her convenience trumps all. So when I asked her to remove the kid who was close enough to climb up into my uterus, she said, oh, it's okay. Yep, it's okay. See, I'm going to school for healthcare and the content I was studying was just the thing boys giggle about. So this 3 or 4-year-old boy got a lesson on the lower digestive tract. He learned about the Bristol stool chart, and a whole lot of terminology, which I made sure he knew before our goodbyes. About 15 minutes pass and I told him to go tell mommy what he learned. Now, anyone who knows kids knows that at this age they have no volume control and are completely without shame. And they love fart talk. So what did this sweet boy effing scream at his mom in this full to capacity, quiet, zone? Mom, I learned about poop and anuses. Did you know an anus is a muscle and that you have an anus too? I'm quite certain they both learned something from that. Call the police on my kid for watching a movie? No afternoon nap for you, by usermezzy31. So I just read a story on here that reminded me of my dad's personal petty revenge story. I was around 10 to 12 when this happened. Our old next door neighbor was a nosy, lazy Sam. She liked to complain about almost everything. My sister, 5 years older, had friends ranging from the same age to a few years older and they would often come to our house for most of every weekend. Sometimes it'd be a couple friends, others up to 15 or so. The neighbor, surprisingly, never complained about a bunch of teenagers being at our house every weekend. Until she decided to, I guess. They never made a lot of noise. My dad worked weekends and the #1 rule was do not keep dad awake/wake him up. This was during school holidays in summer, so my dad had the following day off. My sister had 3 friends over and that night, all they did was watch a movie. It wasn't loud, Dad couldn't hear it from our veranda, they didn't even stay late. They went home about 9:30. Come just after 10 p.m., 2 cops rock up on our doorstep. A noise complaint from our next door neighbor about a wild party. They were obviously confused as they were greeted by a grumpy late 30s guy in a dressing gown, book in one hand, smoke in the other, cup of tea on the table in front of him, just chilling on his veranda, instead of the rager they'd been told about. Dad was like, look, I hate the kids coming here but tonight, 3 kids were here watching a movie, they left over half an hour ago, I don't know what the fuck she's on about. He was pieainized. He didn't enjoy our house being the designated hangout place but, as Mum always said, at least we know where our daughter is. But even that night, he wasn't annoyed because it was a small group watching a movie. If it was any other night, he'd be annoyed because just come over and tell him they're being too loud, but don't call the cops because they're watching a movie. Our neighbor would always have afternoon naps at 1 p.m. Her bedroom was 5 m from our driveway, so pretty close. Our front yard was also huge. Our house was pretty small and sat on over a quarter acre. 2/3 of that quarter acre was our front yard. Well, next day, the lawn needed mowing. It being summer, our summer temps go into the 40s in Celsius. Dad would normally mow as early as possible in the most efficient way possible. It would normally take him 40 minutes. Not that day. He waited until 12:45. And then he started the mower. And did it in the most convoluted way possible. 2 hours of mowing. Then, being the responsible camper that he is, he decided it was time to count the tent pegs. They're kept in a metal army box. There's about 300 pegs in there because why not apparently. So out to the driveway, right next to her bedroom window. One peg at a time, he took it out, stood up and threw it full force at the driveway. Bang, clang, clash, you get the picture. The one at a time, he picked them up off the driveway, stood up, threw them full force into the metal box. Bang clang clash. She came out to scowl at him a couple times but didn't say a word. He was extra cranky that night due to the probable heat stroke, but he always had such glee when recounting the story. I sent her a glitter Christmas card and she called the cops on me, by user sickening_toe. Moved into a nice little neighborhood with my husband and soon to be newborn. One night my husband was walking our corgi puppy and the neighbor across from us came outside. Corgi puppy runs over to her and the woman shrieks and runs inside. Husband comes out later without puppy and she cusses him out, screams at him, he tries to apologize but she keeps screaming. A few days later a humane officer comes to my door, wakes my newborn up and tells me he will give me a fine for allowing my dog to charge our neighbor if it happens again. I guess he was under the impression this happened more than one time. He said my neighbor was terrified for her safety. I told him I have a 7-pound corgi puppy. Literally the least terrifying animal on earth. She also yells at our other neighbor who mows the vacant lot beside her anytime he gets close to her grass, which gets pretty tall. They've gotten into screaming matches and she's even called the cops on him multiple times, never ending in her favor. I found an online website that anonymously sends people glitter bomb holiday/Christmas cards, so when you open it, it shoots glitter everywhere. Like a month goes by and I was wondering if this website just took my money or if she just wasn't going to say anything about it. I shit you not, a cop comes to my door, asks to come inside and then busts out laughing, explaining he's here over a glitter Christmas card. He tells me I made his day and that was the funniest call he's ever ran and leaves. Totally legal and great petty revenge. She also kidnapped my cat, but that's a story for a different day. We are cool now surprisingly. She even gifted me some edibles. I was a bit suspicious they were poisoned or something as revenge for the card. They were fantastic and we talk on a regular basis now. Turns out she is just a bit socially anxious, so that's why she's gotten into it with a lot of the neighbors, but she is actually a really nice person under the Karen exterior. I'll post a screenshot on my profile for those who think I'm lying. Edit again. Dude, my husband let the dog off the leash one time for whatever reasoning he had. I always use a leash. I did not realize what a giant community of leash lovers were on Reddit, but holy shit guys. Slow your roll. As Shaggy would say, it wasn't me. Party till 4 a.m? Enjoy my hammering, by user wild_butterscotch 977. The last couple years the house next door to mine was rented to a few 20-something dudes who would party and play loud music until like 4 a.m. The houses are pretty close together, so it was loud inside my house even with all the windows shut, and it would keep me up most of the night. Doing it on the weekends was bad enough, but sometimes it would be on a Thursday and I'd have to work the next day on just a couple hours sleep. Needless to say, I was always pissed and petty when this happened. Now my house has a wooden deck in the back and it wraps around the same side of the house that faces these neighbors. It's a pretty old deck and the nails work their way up over time, so periodically I have to hammer them back in. When the AHS next door would party super late, I'd wake around 7 as I usually do. I'm incapable of sleeping in late even after little sleep, and at 7:30 I'd get out my hammer and start hammering my deck nails in. About 10 feet away from 2 of their bedroom windows. I had lots of nails that needed to be hammered in. Sometimes one of the guys would scream out in frustration and it was very satisfying. I don't sleep, you don't sleep, dude. Fortunately they moved away not too long ago. I like to think I had something to do with it. EDA, around here 7 a.m. is a normal time for noisy work to start, like construction crews and roofers.